there is this moment right now where I feel like God is up to something. There's like a shift. There's like a pivot. He's moving the church in a different direction. He's moving nations in a different direction. There's like a sifting out of things. Like, what you want to speak more into that? Because and also, I mean, I wanted to ask this question so you could just go for it, whatever. But you have this unique perspective because you believe like you're a prophet, and you're apostolic, you're prophetic. Like I've heard you talk a lot about this, but you're saying like in this time, there's a role for prophetic ministry in this moment, that we can do something as prophets or prophetic communities can step in. And I loved what you wrote. It was so helpful for me. And you posted it on your blog, and Alex and I were just sending it to everyone. Like, will you just speak into that? What is God doing? And what's the role of like stepping into the prophetic moment in this time? What do you see?
Well, the week before this this is probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. You can get on Bethel TV and see the message. Before there was a declaration of any virus in U.S. and anyone was worried about it, I woke up every morning for 5 mornings in a row with this word providence, just the word providence.
Wow.
I earnestly don't ever use that word. Yeah. I mean, I obviously have heard the word before, but I didn't know what it meant, So I looked up the word providence.
Yeah.
And it's basically God's divine care for his people,
Yeah.
In a overview of the word. Yeah. And I'm like, I wonder what that means. And then I had this vision. It's actually a memory of a vision I had many years ago. And we had all these divine prophetic words about this business we were going to be in. And we ended up getting that business 7 days after the 5 prophetic words. And we were in that business for 9 years. And, the first several years were very hard. And I couldn't figure out, like, God told me, if you open this business, I'm going to bless you. But economically, it was the opposite. And so finally, I think it's around year 3 or so, I finally said, this is it. Like, I feel like God's not in this. And I started, deciding that I was going to, do something else. And I had this one night, I had this terrifying vision, and God was walking down this path, and people were resisting him like almost like a linebacker would, on a football team, or defensive lineman. And God was just grabbing them and throwing them.
Yeah.
And then in the vision, I was, he threw several people, and then I was next. And in the vision, I was like, should I, defend my position, as kind of, and he looked me right in the eyes, and he said, "Get out of my way."
Wow.
And I was trying to figure out if I should resist him or not. And just as he reached over to grab me like he had the others, I just got out of the way. And then when he passed, he didn't even turn back, but he just said, "Follow." Now follow. And I after that whole providence encounter I had, I felt like the Lord reminded me of that season, like 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And I remembered, like, just follow.
Yeah.
That's your job isn't to, it's not called the fact, it's called the faith.
Yeah.
Just follow.
Good.
If God wants to do, exceedingly abundantly more than we ask or think, then, if you understand your total experience in God, then you have an inferior experience, because God wants to do more than we ask or think, or ask or understand. So I just began, this is all like the week or 2 or 3 before the virus thing happened. And I began to think, God's doing something powerful. It's going to be global. Yeah. These are all things I said in the teaching. You can see it.
Wow.
And our job is not to understand. Our job is to follow. And, Darren, the truth is, worse than the virus, and we already talked about how devastating the virus is, and worse than the economic impact is we're actually in a crisis of certainty.
Yeah. Wow.
And we have this idea that our life is certain.
Wow.
I mean, before the virus.
Yep.
We have this idea, like, I live in lots of certainty. It's like, actually, you don't.
Yep.
Actually, you don't. It's actually an illusion that you control your life.
Yep.
And you know, I have all these stories in my mind that come to me. I was sharing with the third year students today. It's like tomorrow's not guaranteed to anyone.
Yeah.
And so, you know that verse that says, God is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path.
Yeah.
That's two different seasons. There's a season where God's a light to our path. We know where we're going. You know, we're leading for you and I, we're leading our people. We're like, yes, this is it. This is the way. But there's other seasons where he's a lamp to our feet, meaning we don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
And in those seasons, we're supposed to learn that our certainty, our confidence, our certainty is not in our destiny. It's in our certainty is in the nature of God. Do I trust God?
That's so good.
Do I trust God? Because the truth is, I mean, I don't know, you know, what you're doing right now. I mean, when you were 20, did you know you'd be doing this?
No.
Yeah. And, you know, I was building a business.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea of when I was 30 years old, my idea was to have auto parts stores. Like, you know, I had 3 of them. I'm like, I'm going to have 150 of these. I'm going to build a network. I mean, that's my idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that all came crashing down one day. And after 20 years of work, I sold my company to a company, a huge company, nationwide, publicly held company, that in the middle of my escrow, they went bankrupt. And instead of giving me $250,000 for my businesses, I ended up owing $1.8 million. And I'm like, okay, well, my point is not to tell my story.
Yeah.
The point is, like, you think your life is certain. Like, you think it's all worked out. It's like, I'm going to build this business. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to have a whole bunch of money. I'm going to do this thing. And then the whole thing crashes. And you have to realize, like, your certainty was never in that money. It was never in your great plan. Your certainty is in the person that you have a relationship with, in Jesus. And so I think that this is the time our nation and the nations of the world, everyone who has their trust in their destiny, even in their purpose, God's shaking that. And he's like, okay, yes, I know the plans I have for you. It's plans for, not plans for calamity, but plans to give you a future and hope. Yes, I have already decided that everything will work out for good for you. But what I want you to trust in is not the plan, but the person.